Which quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft are underrated, overrated, potential busts, and possible steals? Welcome, football fans, to my top 10 quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft. This is a cohesive breakdown of the 10 best quarterbacks in this year's NFL Draft. It will be a little different. It will be a little controversial. So I want to hear from you in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of my list. And of course, when it comes to my rankings for the NFL Draft, I'm a casual college football fan. I don't spend 3 years watching these quarterbacks play. I take the 2024 tape and watch it all. And I analyze their game for how I see it at the NFL level. I'm not a pro scout, but I am somebody that I think can see the game at the quarterback level in the NFL and has a pretty good idea based on the track record of these videos and these rankings that I've made in the past. So, if you're ready for my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL Draft, spike the like button, and don't forget to not be a jabroni and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL rankings just like this. If we get 75 likes on this video, I'll release my top 10 running backs in the 2025 NFL Draft. Let's get to it. We're going to go from number 1 to number 10. Beginning with the best quarterback in the 2025 NFL Draft. At number 1, I have the projected first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Cam Ward out of Miami, the U. Not going too off the board with this one. I think Cam Ward is the best quarterback in this draft. A draft that is not seen as a stacked draft for the quarterback position. I will say that I think Ward has the best combination of traits that are needed for the NFL level to have success. And those two traits are throwing a powerful football at the intermediate level of the field and combining that with playmaking ability. That is what Cam Ward does better than anybody in this draft. He's able to throw an accurate football with arm strength to the intermediate level, 10 to 20 yards, and he's also able to be extremely composed and confident under pressure, as well as being able to ad-lib and throw the ball to create big plays down the field while scrambling. Those are two traits that we see from guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Stylistically, Cam Ward has been compared to Steve McNair, a big-armed quarterback, good athlete, but not necessarily known for his ability to run, more so known for his ability to get the ball downfield and to create with a little bit of magic with his arm. Now, Ward plays with a very unique style. He is almost borderline cocky in his approach to the quarterback position. He's very confident, almost cocky the way that he holds on to the ball and just kind of stands there. Like, he's super composed, super statuesque, and then he just makes something happen. But he's a powerful athlete, and he's extremely casual. He's casual in the way that he throws the ball. He's casual in the way that he breaks sacks. He's casual in the way that he makes things happen on the football field. And I think that his leadership style of being extremely confident also corresponds with his play style, which makes me believe that that's going to be a strength at the NFL level, that players around him are going to be able to buy into him because he's a cool player, but he's also a cool person. So that definitely helps. He's a gunslinger by nature, meaning that he'll try to make more aggressive throws, and he's not one of these guys that's very conservative. He's going to try to make big throws down the field, and sometimes that will lead to some mistakes, which is where we're going to talk about some of his negatives, okay? But there is definitely a balance in terms of being able to make big-time throws more often than you make big-time mistakes. We'll talk about that. Also, I think he's a sneaky scrambler. He's creative under pressure. He definitely looks like a guy that studied Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes with his ability to escape from pressure. Now, breaking down his strengths, I believe that he has a really good combination of second-level throw ability and playmaking ability. And he can make all throws on the move and off platform. And that is really interesting because in this class, I don't think that there are many other quarterbacks that are anywhere near, Drake May, Caleb Williams from last year with an ability to kind of extend and throw the ball off of platform. Like Jordan Love, for example, in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, some of the better ones in the NFL right now. These guys, Aaron Rodgers in his prime, their ability to throw with great accuracy and arm strength without being set. And I honestly don't think there's many guys in this class outside of Cam Ward that actually possess this trait, which has become pretty fundamental for a lot of quarterbacks. If you're not going to win with your mind, you have to be able to win with your arm. And I think Ward can do that. Now, he does possess good footwork when scanning the field. His ability to go from 1 to 2 to 3 and still be accurate is definitely on the tape and throws a bullet while doing so. He also possesses very good intermediate power, and the delivery of it is very slick. One of the favorite things about his game is his short game, his RPO game, where he has, in my opinion, the best short delivery in the entire draft, where he's able to lower his arm trajectory, his arm angle. He's able to manipulate the football to be able to get the ball around a defender through a passing lane, similar to Patrick Mahomes when you watch him throw an RPO. An example of that would be the first completion of the game to Juju Smith-Schuster in the Super Bowl, where Mahomes had to get under a defender and throw the ball sidearm. This is something that Cam Ward does, I think, exceptionally well, and I think this will be one of the better things that he does at the NFL level. So RPOs and quick game screens are going to be something that Cam Ward operates very well from snap to throw. He also possesses pretty good downfield touch, especially down the sidelines, but I feel like I was more impressed by his quick game and his intermediate power and arm strength. He also is very patient, almost too patient at extending plays. But I did notice that he had a good amount of good protection a lot of the time. So I wonder when the clock is sped up in his mind a little bit, if he'll get a little bit more antsy. That being said, one thing about Cam Ward is he played at Miami. Okay, so he didn't have great weapons, and a lot of the players on his offense weren't exceptional. I mean, they just weren't. You watch these guys, and I don't think his best receiver will be picked in the top 4 rounds of the draft. So that speaks to him carrying the team, definitely. He also has good power to run the ball if needed. It's not a strength of his game necessarily, but it's something he can do. If you want him to run the ball within the 5-yard line, he could definitely make some quick cuts with his legs and be able to power and go through somebody because he has a pretty strong lower half. Now, the weaknesses in his game, I think he has some weaknesses that a lot of the quarterbacks in this draft have, but then I think he has a couple that are in particular to his game, which is just really his confidence. He's too confident, honestly. Like, his confidence sneaks into his footwork and to his accuracy as a passer. He can get away with it at times because he's so talented, but kind of like a Jordan Love, he can also miss very easy throws because he tries to throw the ball with his upper body instead of his entire body at times. He has good accuracy, but again, his sloppy nature can make him not excellently accurate, if that makes sense. He's not a bullseye passer like what we saw from CJ Stroud a couple years ago. He does play too casual, which also leaks into his interceptions and his bad decisions, kind of like Josh Allen. Sometimes he'll make a really stupid throw and you're like, why did he just do that? But it's also because he played for Miami and he kind of needed to press the buttons to be able to win games. So there's also part of that there as well. He's not the quickest or most elusive athlete when under pressure, but he's extremely creative and slick, so he seems to get away with it, at least at the college level. I would also say that he can refine, and this is the area that I think a lot of quarterbacks need to get better at in this class. He can refine his ability to process and see things quickly and just play on schedule and get rid of the ball. His anticipation to read the field could be just a little bit better. But a lot of quarterbacks, when they're young, need to work on this area. So it's not too big of an issue for me. And he doesn't always find the right outlet all the time. Sometimes he finds a player to throw to, but it's not always the right guy, in my opinion. And it is a little worrisome how little he does play in tempo at times. There are stretches of games and plays where I feel like he just doesn't take the guy that's there and open sometimes, and he tries to do a little bit too much by holding onto the ball. But this is something that even Patrick Mahomes has been cursed by in his career. So at number 1, I have Cam Ward. He's the most talented quarterback with a great amount of swagger. I think it will translate to the NFL. At number 2, this is going to be a little bit of a shocking selection at number 2 for the top 10 quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft. At number 2, I have Tyler Shough out of Louisville. He is an interesting prospect because he is 25 years old with an extensive injury history. But being that he's 25 years old, you would think he would not be this high. But he's only had one actual season of playing college football. Shadeur Sanders, Cam Ward, these guys have actually played more football than Tyler Shough, believe it or not. So I can't really hold his age against him because honestly, quarterbacks can play until they're 40. So being that he's 25, if he's good, to me, it doesn't really matter. And when you combine the fact that he's 25, but he's also probably the most athletic quarterback in the draft class, being that he's big, 6'5". He's also in the top 30 for relative athletic score at the quarterback position in the history of the combine. He has a good combination of size, arm strength, athleticism, and he ran a 4.63. So it speaks to he can run in a straight line. He's not a scrambler. He is more of a processor and a passer, but he certainly can run. Like, he's got some pretty good speed. He's got some pretty awesome arm strength. I think he's right there with Cam Ward, maybe just a little bit underneath. I think he has the best deep ball in this class. And he showcased his athleticism in a game against Clemson, doing a full-on dive somersault into a touchdown into the end zone. Now, if you can get over the injury history and you can get over the age, which, like I said, I don't think the age is a huge concern. The injury history may be a huge concern because he does have a lot of injuries. Like, there's a reason he's played so long in college, right? So that is a big deal. But if you look at his positives, I think he's got a good amount of sidearm release. When he's under pressure, he's able to change his arm slot and his arm angle pretty effectively. I think that he showcased a good ability to drop back and play in a drop back passing game quite a bit, with combination of also being an effective play action passer. And those two elements are the main elements of being a good, productive NFL quarterback. And I felt like he did both of those things fairly well. I thought that his best throws often came on touch passes on crossers, where he showed like a really good ability to throw a catchable pass that had enough arm strength and enough touch on it. And he just has an easy, smooth delivery every single time. I think he does an excellent job at avoiding negative plays. This is a big reason he's at number 2. He was very good at avoiding sacks and understood where to go with the ball when he was under pressure, which I felt like he did better than almost everybody that I watched, except for maybe one player that we'll get to next. So he finds his outlet when he's hot quite often, quite effectively. It's not always the mathematical best guy to go to, but he's always trying to find that guy. And oftentimes he's just somehow avoiding a sack. You know, that's something that being, Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, I thought did better than anybody, which is avoiding sacks, avoiding negative plays to keep your offense on schedule. I think Tyler Shough does that effectively in this draft class. He has a good arm and he can throw the ball with power across his body, across the field. He has definitely plus arm strength, in my opinion. He can flick the ball with slick delivery in really all aspects. He has enough movement to throw on the move, and I almost wish, kind of like Justin Herbert, that he would extend plays more. He's a little bit too confined to the pocket, when he's so athletic that he should be looking to actually extend plays a little bit more. But it's kind of pick your poison, because I'm asking these guys to play in rhythm more often, because that's life in the NFL, is playing in rhythm, playing with a clock in your mind and getting the ball to where it needs to go on time, on schedule, which guys that don't do that effectively have a very low floor. I feel like Tyler Shough, because he does that pretty well, he's got a relatively high floor, and you add his athleticism, it gives him a pretty high ceiling, a lot higher than a lot of the guys that we're going to talk about. His touch and accuracy is good to the second level. His touch on jump balls is good. His understanding just for touch in general, especially the deep ball, is exceptional. And I think he has, like I said, the best deep ball in the class. He diagnoses things well pre-snap, in my opinion, better than he does post-snap. Sometimes he'll just go to his first read, or if he doesn't find his first read, which he read pre-snap to be the correct decision, oftentimes he's right about that decision. So he's reading the field, he's picking a side of the field, he's kind of seeing where the safeties are, the coverage, is it zone, is it man? And he often picks the right spot to go with the ball, but when post-snap it doesn't develop the way he saw it, sometimes he tends to hold on the ball a little bit too long, so he's better pre-snap than post-snap. But considering he doesn't have too much experience outside of probably the film room and the workout room, right, the gym, I feel like that's still some area where he can improve. I felt like he showcased a mature game. So one aspect that I liked was just the quick passing game, his understanding of getting rid of the ball on schedule, on time, in a quick manner. He has the ability to, I think, keep the ball and run in red zone situations, third down or short yardage, given his frame and his speed. But he is not very quick laterally, in my opinion. When the situation calls for it, I feel like he's also willing to buy time and make a awesome throw, running to his left. There was a great throw against Notre Dame where he scrambles to the left, throws a sidearm delivery for a touchdown where he's having to buy extra time. So he's capable. I just wish he did it more. The negatives: he throws more with his arm than his body, and sometimes he doesn't bring his legs. But I honestly didn't feel like this was an area of huge concern. This was more of a mechanical issue. Occasionally he misses, but that's mostly when he's under pressure, and a lot of guys tend to miss when they're under pressure. It also does help him that he's able to have good effective arm strength without his legs, because under pressure, he still has the arm talent to make throws under duress in a collapsed pocket, which a lot of the guys in this class don't have that capable arm strength. His pocket movement, in my opinion, was a little flawed. He does not have great elusiveness or lateral quickness to escape pressure like some great quarterbacks in the NFL, like, let's say, Lamar. He fades away a lot under pressure, in my opinion. Like he retreats a little bit and he tries to fade away. And it seemed like his biggest issues came when he was in getting interior pressure. But that's an issue for a lot of quarterbacks, especially pocket quarterbacks. So I didn't try to kind of like make it such a big deal, but he definitely seemed to have a bad habit of not stepping forward or stepping away from the pressure, instead retreating, which is not a good idea. He also needs to clue into the blitz a little bit faster, in my opinion, whether by blocking it up or by understanding where he's hot and where to go with the ball. Notre Dame seemed to blitz him a lot, and he did struggle in this area. And I don't really love the way he operates in the quick game. This is opposite from Cam Ward. I felt like he threw too many floaters. He threw the ball with too much touch and too casual in the quick game. In the quick game, you want to throw the ball as quickly as possible with as much arm strength and zip as humanly possible on a straight line, because you don't want the guys to be able to read and react to the ball on a bubble screen where the ball's in the air. That's where you can get the hospital passes. That's where you can get defenses to close gaps and create losses in the quick game. So I feel like he could be better there. I think he got better as the season went on, but this was more so the early tape from his season. I didn't really like that area of his game. I just mostly have him at number 2 because I can see how his game can transfer to Sundays pretty effectively. The play action, the drop back pass, the quick decisions to know where to go with the ball, and the athleticism, the arm strength, the size. I think he has a lot of skills that translate to Sundays, including the measurables, and also I feel like the accuracy and the arm strength. And he also has an ability to play outside of structure and inside of structure. So I think he's probably the most underrated quarterback in this class. He's not being discussed as a first-round quarterback, but I think I'd be willing to take him near the end of the first round. So number 2 is Tyler Shough from Louisville. At number 3 is going to be another surprise for people, but this is my personal favorite quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. And his name is Dillon Gabriel out of Oregon. Dillon Gabriel is interesting because he was my favorite to watch out of all of these guys, but he is very small. Typically, I do not like small quarterbacks, so this is an outlier for me. He is listed at 5'11", 205. He's actually listed at 6 foot, but I believe he measured in at 5'11" at the combine. My first note is I love this kid. He's probably my favorite quarterback in the class. He's extremely smart. He plays very fast. He's very accurate. And in my opinion, what kind of allowed me to rank him this high is seeing the success of Tua. And I know that Tua has not won a playoff game, and I know that Tua has not been extremely successful, but this guy reminds me a lot of Tua Tagovailoa, and he's actually more athletic than Tua by a lot. I think he's got a stronger arm, he's quicker, he can run better, and he's more physical. Like, he's tougher. I don't think he's going to get injured. He hasn't been injured like Tua was in college. I feel like Dillon Gabriel, he could be the next Tua, and in a draft class like this, I would take that. I would 100% take that. So his style, he's very small and he looks small. He's also left-handed like Tua, but he's 24 years old. He's played 6 seasons of college. His dad, I believe, was a former quarterback in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. And you can tell because he's very smart playing the position. He is excellent in the quick game. And he's a better athlete and tougher than Tua. He reminds me of a small Bo Nix. The little man that can, I say, and he is a rhythm-based quarterback that has crazy good anticipation. His strengths, his delivery and arm strength is a lot stronger than I would have thought. It's actually, I think, the most underrated arm in the draft. His pop and the ability for the ball just to, when it comes out of his hand, it's very quick. I mean, it's rapid in my opinion. He has a very good arm within 25 yards of the field. And his transition in terms of his body weight, his power, and then his combination of power and accuracy is right up there with the best of the best in this class. I think he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks, and I think he showcases a great ability of power within the intermediate and short levels of the field. I was very impressed by his arm, and I think it's underrated whip on the ball. He has really good touch on short and intermediate passes, and his placement is extremely consistent to create yards after the catch, where I felt like he was the best quarterback in this class at allowing his receivers to run with the ball after the catch. He has very good feet. His agility is excellent. He can extend with lateral cuts extremely well, short, choppy strides, because he's smaller, but he's able to like weave his way like a running back through pressure and through traffic. And he's not a great runner straight away. He's not super fast, but he did showcase a couple times on tape against impressive defenses an ability to run. I mean, he did run away from Oregon State for a 50-yard touchdown. He did have like a 50-yard scramble last year against Texas. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive in my opinion. And the other thing about Gabriel that's a strength is he's played at many different places. He played at Oklahoma last year where he was successful, and he played at Oregon this year where he was successful, right? So he was able to play at both places. And it's not like he was able to sit behind Bo Nix and learn from Bo Nix and do that whole thing. He had to pick up this system in the offseason and operate it. And I think Oregon picked him up because they realized how similar he is to Bo Nix. I think his game is extremely similar to Bo Nix. And again, if Bo Nix were in this class, he'd probably be the number 2 quarterback, maybe even the number 1 quarterback in this class. So I know that he's a lot smaller than Bo Nix, but he has a lot of the same capabilities. I think that this kid has exceptional vision. He showcased the best vision in the class in terms of being able to step up in the pocket and still keep his eyes up and find somebody down the field. He actually has a very good awareness of seeing the entire field and knowing where all his receivers are to be able to throw the ball. He's very patient. He bounces on his toes. He's never really consumed by a 3 or 4 man rush. He understands when he has time and when he doesn't. He understands when he needs to be hurried and when he doesn't. When he has time, he's actually really good at picking you apart and finding somebody to come open. There was an impressive touchdown against Illinois where he just waited and waited and waited for someone to get open on a crosser, and eventually he stepped up and he made the throw for a touchdown. He's very crafty, and he's really good at just scanning till the last possible second and finding a delivery point for the football. He's also very feisty. When he takes on contact, when he's running, he is not scared. He's just feisty in his game. He's competitive. There was a designed run against Illinois where he legitimately ran over somebody at 5'11", which is impressive. He also has a good track record of playing against big-time opponents and doing well. He beat Texas in 2023. He beat Penn State this year. He beat Ohio State this year, the national champion. And he did this against big, fast athletes on sometimes lesser talented teams like Oklahoma, for example. His negatives, he tends to struggle, not scramble. He tends to struggle more throwing the ball outside the numbers. This is even something I noticed at the combine where he did miss a few outs, like 10-yard, 15-yard outs. This is something that Tua also struggles with, in my opinion. I'm not sure if it's a mechanical thing. I don't think it's an arm strength thing. I think he's incredible at throwing the ball within the hash marks and in the middle of the field, which is why I think he would be an incredible Dolphins quarterback or Niners quarterback, for example. I do believe that when he gets to throw the ball outside the numbers, it's just a little bit less accurate and less consistent, and the ball seems to flutter a little bit more. I think that he's not the best deep ball passer, and that is where I kind of feel like his size comes into play, because when you're throwing the ball deep, you have to be able to throw the ball over the line and arc it in such a way where it can land in the receiver to give them a chance. And I just never really saw an ability to just kind of like throw a fade ball down the field. That's not a big part of Oregon's offense, to be fair, but I felt like he wasn't great in that aspect and was much more of a short and intermediate, dice you up type of passer. And you do worry about the suffocating pockets, the confined space, because he is so small. His size is definitely a disadvantage. But honestly, on the tape, it's hard to find where it was a disadvantage. Even in the game against Ohio State, where they got obliterated, the first game they won, he didn't have some of his weapons in that second game, but I will say, I didn't think it was really on him why they lost that game. I didn't think that he was the reason, and I didn't really see areas where he was just being exposed. So I couldn't really call it out for myself. But at number 3, I love Dillon Gabriel. I think he's one of the quickest, best timing passers in this draft. That's why he's at number 3. At number 4 in the 2025 NFL draft, I have the man that's largely at number 2. That is Shadeur Sanders out of Colorado, the son of Deion. Now, I have some things that I really like about Shadeur, but I think that he's miscategorized, which was something that I was puzzled by when watching him, and maybe I was a little bit caught off guard. But first thing is, he's not as big as you would think. I think he's only 6'1", about 212. He has a very thick and big lower half of his body and extremely wide hips, which I think actually helps him be pretty powerful and difficult to sack, which is one of his strengths in my opinion. Not that he didn't get sacked a lot, because he did behind that offensive line, but there are moments where he's able to just kind of stiff arm away defenders, and when he's on the move, he's more difficult to get down. But he is not the biggest guy, okay? So him being put over Gabriel just because of size wouldn't have been fair, in my opinion. I think he's one of, if not the most accurate passer in this draft. Just from a pure accuracy standpoint, his delivery and his release and his mechanics and consistency of throwing the ball was extremely high, especially within about 15 yards. Where my concerns come in are when he's throwing the ball down the field and trying to threaten defenses vertically, which we'll talk about. I've heard some comparisons to Kirk Cousins and Geno Smith. I think he's similar to CJ Stroud, but he's not as gifted. He's like a less gifted version of CJ Stroud. If you imagine CJ Stroud likes to, throw a nice accurate touch ball at all levels of the field, has very good mechanics, always comes out seamlessly throwing the football, but at the same time, he likes to ad-lib and get outside structure. I think Stroud's a little bit more athletic. I think he's a little bit taller. He's got a stronger arm, and his release is slicker, but I feel like Sanders is just like a worse version of him overall. I kind of just view Sanders and why he's at number 4. He's not better than average at really anything other than accuracy. He's not above standard for speed, size, arm strength, vision, pocket presence. It's really just accuracy. And accuracy is important, but if you don't know where you're going with the ball and you can't read the field at an exceptional level and you're not a great athlete, it's hard to find ways to become accurate, if that makes sense. So that's where it was a little underwhelming. He concerns me with how he feels like he is a better athlete than he is at times. He is Kirk Cousins, but plays like Josh Allen sometimes. That was a big concern for me. And we'll get into the positives and negatives, but that's kind of his play style, where people think he's this Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning-esque quarterback, where he drops back and he reads 1 to 2 to 3, and he delivers the ball on time with great ability for yards after catch, perfect accuracy, perfect touch. Yes, he's accurate, but I don't think people properly assess the mental aspects of the game with him, where I still think he needs a large area of growth. So we'll talk about that in the negatives, but positively, I think that his release and his arm mechanics are pretty effective for the style of player that he is. He has an over-the-top throw motion, which is more old school, and it's not around the body. Like when you see Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen, they will bring the ball almost across their body. Tom Brady to a certain degree. Sanders is more over-the-top thrower, and this does help him when he is facing pressure, especially up the middle, where he faced more pressure on the tape than any quarterback I watched in this entire thing. His offensive line was absolutely horrific. And it does make his scouting a little difficult because it's really hard to understand whether he should have gotten rid of the ball or whether he should create. So that is where it was really tricky for me to kind of decipher that. And that's where I think people are going to have a hard time with understanding what Sanders truly is. He has really good classical mechanics. It's consistent and it's consistently accurate. He threw a lot of screens. He was effective at it. A lot of quick underneath throws, really, productive at it. Everybody can kind of do that though. I think one of the positives is that he threw a lot of attempts. He had a lot of volume. He had to carry his team and his offense. They didn't really have a running game. And I thought that there was a lot of yak on the tape. Some of it was partly his doing. Some of it was not. I will say that Horn kid is pretty sick. I mean, watch out for him. That wide receiver, Horn Jr., he is fast. That guy definitely stood out to me. Obviously he had Travis Hunter. He had better receivers, I felt like, than a lot of the other quarterbacks that are ahead or below him. I felt like his offensive line, though, was trash, but that's kind of masking that he had the best receivers, in my opinion, out of anybody that I think I watched. When he plays on time, he is good. He is accurate within 20 yards, but he doesn't always play on time. He rarely loses control of the ball. His feet are always in line with his throw, even when on the move, where he's actually sneaky good at throwing the ball on the move, especially to his left. He's a very good touch passer that throws very catchable passes. He fits the ball into tight windows over the middle pretty consistently, even in contested situations. He has zip on short middle of the field throws, questionable deep ball ability. This is an area where I think it's a negative, where he struggles to get the ball down the field and throw an accurate ball with enough trajectory and touch on it to actually make it a good deep ball. I actually think his deep ball is quite poor, which is another reason he's not number 2, but number 4 for me. He holds the ball quite a bit okay? And this is, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Because sometimes he needs to hold the ball because he's being pressured. And sometimes he holds the ball and he kind of he's looking at the guy that's open. And then for some reason, he doesn't take the guy that's open and he decides to extend the play looking for something better. That is what really annoyed me about his game. His creation ability, though, is underrated. He does have impressive play breaking skills and sack breaking skills, in my opinion. He's able to extend and have good vision and find receivers. It just isn't done in a super athletic fashion. It's more so done out of a slick awareness and a very confident demeanor where he kind of just has a very good feel for everything when he's on the move. He's actually a lot stronger than you would think he is and has a thick lower half of his body. He's very tough in the pocket and can take big hits and still make throws. He has a good situational sense and is pretty good in the clutch. He had some really nice throws when he needed them the most. He's pretty good moving to the left and throwing at the intermediate level specifically, not necessarily deep, where he's not great at moving and throwing deep, but only really short to intermediate, which is good, but not great, okay? He's also a strong leader. I really like him. Like, this is not a hater take at all. I like Shadeur Sanders, like the personality. I would draft him for the personality and for the accuracy alone. I think that's a reason to draft him. I don't think he's a first round pick because I don't think he has enough physical skills. It's kind of weird to say that about Deion Sanders' kid, but his arm isn't strong enough. He's not twitchy enough. He's not quick enough. He's not big enough. His arm isn't great enough. His deep ball isn't good enough. I just feel like he's physically limited. That's why I wouldn't take him in the first round. Everything else, the way that he throws the ball consistently accurate, is arguably the best in the class. His off-the-field demeanor, leadership, and swag, I think, is a reason to believe in him. But I think he's more of a player that needs players around him to be successful, which is why I think his dad has always attached him to Travis Hunter and recruited these great receivers and all this stuff, because he's very effective when he has weapons and when he has players around him. But in the NFL, you need to be uncomfortable, and Shadeur was uncomfortable under pressure a lot, but it felt like he's only really effective with great playmakers around him, in my opinion. If he can get better at some of his negatives, he can overcome some of his physical deficiencies with mental efficiencies, but it feels like his mental game is not quite on the level that people think. So let's go through it. He surprisingly backpedals a lot under pressure. He does the Russell Wilson spin move in the pocket, but he's not quick. He doesn't play on schedule as much as people think. He tries to live in creation mode too much. And if you guys want like a deep dive into that specifically, go watch the Kurt Warner breakdown on Shadeur Sanders. It shows you basically a profile of what he is in that regard. He passes up completions for creation. He needs to be better versus pressure and to find when he's hot and where to go with the ball under pressure. He doesn't consistently read his concepts effectively. He's not a very aggressive decision maker. He often hesitates to throw the ball downfield, which is a Derek Carr-ish type of trait, which is concerning and annoying. So those are my notes on Shadeur Sanders. I feel like he's going to be a good game manager and a good player in a good system, but I don't think he's a potential game-changing talent. Now, you might be asking, why is he below Dillon Gabriel? I think the differences for me is Gabriel plays at a much quicker and faster rate mentally. He gets rid of the ball much faster. He goes to his decided target much faster. I think he actually has a stronger arm, and I felt like his accuracy wasn't much worse. Gabriel is also very quick, and I just thought his vision was extraordinarily good. But if you put Sanders ahead of Gabriel, I wouldn't be go crazy about it. At number 5, Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss. This is a guy that's often being talked about as the third best quarterback in the class. He's a little bit bigger than Sanders at 6'2", 215. He has a very good, thick body to him, very good base. And I think it's definitely ideal for taking hits and being a power runner when needed. His style, first of all, he has a lot of swag. This guy on the field, he looks cool. His aesthetics are off the charts, and he has an incredible name. He is very marketable when you look at him. All right. It's kind of Will Levis-ish, but I think actually more swaggy. I don't see an elite trait with Jaxson Dart either, just like Shadeur Sanders. And I actually feel like him and Sanders are almost identical players. They're very similar in their strengths and their weaknesses. I think some things Dart does better than Sanders and some things Sanders does better than Dart, and we'll get into those. But they're not elite really in any manner, shape, or form. It's just that they're good at kind of everything. Like, Dart has not a great arm, not great IQ, not great feet, not great size, but he does a lot of good. I think he actually plays on schedule more than Shadeur does. He's a bolder decision maker, thrower of the football than Sanders, and he's better at throwing the ball deep than Sanders. He grew on me the more that I watched him. I felt like the first time I watched him, which was like a month ago, I was like, this guy's not that good. This guy's not good at all. Like, I don't see it at all. He's just a mid talent. He reminded me of Kenny Pickett. I wrote that down. But the more he played, I felt like the more I got a sense for the offense, what he was trying to do, the timing that he was operating within. And when his first read was there, man, and he was confident in where he was going with the ball, he looked like a first-round quarterback. He's very confident in his stature and composure in the pocket. He's very good at reading, his progressions and kind of bouncing in the pocket and finding his way through his progressions. I feel like he had a very good understanding of his offense, being that he played in it for 3 years. And he had better, in my opinion, if you're comparing him to Sanders, which is why I think Sanders is ahead of him. Sanders, I felt like, was a little bit more accurate, more consistently. I also felt like Sanders was probably a little bit better at ad-libbing, but I think the biggest thing is that Sanders had to deal with worse protection, more pressure, and a worse scheme. So I felt like Sanders kind of had to overcome more of the team's deficiencies than I feel like Jaxson Dart did. Now, some of the strengths. He showed some pretty good zip on slants, crossers, and intermediate routes. Really good throwing on crossers. This was the strength of his game. His confidence and composure in the pocket and his movement, his ability to extend to find a throw, seems to have the flexibility to make angle throws as well. Not as frequently as Cam Ward, but I felt like he did showcase some flexibility in the arm, unlike Shadeur Sanders. He was willing to throw into tight windows more often than somebody like Sanders and give wide receiver chances. He was also willing to throw the ball downfield quite frequently. His competitiveness speaks on the film in all aspects, the running game and the passing game, and his ability to take hits, his passion, his willingness, to take a hit, to run somebody over was certainly on the tape. He has pretty good deep ball touch, and he torched Arkansas with deep balls in that game. He also cooked LSU with downfield passing. So multiple tapes where I felt like he was very good at throwing the ball down the field. He has decent explosion and power as a runner. I think he's underrated in this area and certainly better than somebody like Ward or Sanders. I think he's a better overall runner than those two guys on designed and even maybe scrambles. He's not super quick and shifty or twitchy, but he's got some pretty good understanding and vision of running the ball, and then also pretty good at creating scramble yardage. His weaknesses. He's not exactly fast. He's kind of slow-footed agility-wise. He's definitely faster than quick. Not very twitchy. But I would say that he's similar to Shadeur in the quickness department. The ball doesn't pop out of his hand, and every throw that he has really seems like a very casual touch pass. He doesn't often just, bam, throw a bullet in there. There's very small instances on the tape. He has a little bit of a weird chicken wingy kind of release to his gimmick there. I don't see a lot of reads that are NFL type reads, a lot of RPOs. And sometimes It felt like he needed to pull the trigger a bit faster when he was looking at something. He needs to get rid of the ball. This is something like Shadeur Sanders had, where it's like they're staring at a guy open, and for some reason they'd pat the ball. Now, I will say that I feel like Jaxson Dart had less people open than Sanders. Like, there were games where he was playing competitive opponents and he had nobody open for stretches of time, and he had to actually go out of his way to find somebody open and create. But he also doesn't really anticipate the open man that effectively, and that can lead him to being late on throws. I do question his vision and understanding of leverage and things like that. Nuance, I think, is missing in his game. The Wake Forest game, I thought he showed his best, most quick, decisive trigger, where he was able to read the first read, go with the ball, and throw it accurately on time. He doesn't always see pressure, especially blitzes from the edge. He gets lazy with mechanics and his feet at times, which cause inaccuracies more than Sanders. And I would say he could be better in situational football, unlike Sanders, where in the Kentucky game, I thought he did a poor job leading his team in those situations. So at number 5, I have Jaxson Dart, a kid that I think I can understand, like, being, I don't think he'll ever be special. I think he'll be a game manager type, but I'm not quite sure that he has the mental capacity to ever be a true starter. So I'm somewhat concerned about that. I see more in Shadeur because I think Shadeur is a little bit smarter, and I feel like there was more that was happening around Sanders that caused him to not function well. While I feel like Dart, he kind of had a good scheme. He had a pretty good O-line. Like, there wasn't too much to really complain about in his situation. But I think he could be at best like the 20th best quarterback, the 15th best quarterback in football, if he cleans up some of his mental processing and things like that. But I don't think he has the physical talent to be a top 15, top 10 quarterback. At number 6, speaking of a guy that I think has the physical talent to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, this one hurt because I wanted to put him at like 3 or 4, to be honest. But Jalen Milroe out of Alabama is my number 6 quarterback. 6'2", 201. His style, I wrote a juiced up Jalen Hurts. He's not as good of a passer. His prowess for throwing the ball and his refinement for passing at this stage is not at the same level as Jalen Hurts coming out of the draft. He's kind of similar to a Justin Fields right now. A wicked runner, a sweet athlete, but needs a lot of work throwing the ball. And we've seen what happened with Justin Fields. He is extremely dynamic, superstar potential and upside, but the rawness that everybody says he has is true, in my opinion, because I always try to evaluate that and see if that's correct. Like with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in 2018, I felt like was an inaccurate assessment of those players. I always try to see if the guy that's really athletic, that can really run, is truly raw. And I felt like Milroe at the end of the day, despite the early tapes from last season being impeccable, like top 2 in this draft class, top 1 in this draft class, Heisman Trophy winner caliber early in the season, like the Georgia tape is pretty special, and that's his upside, right? But then there's later tapes like against Tennessee where he's flustered, he's inaccurate, he doesn't play on time, and he's like downright bad. So it's the in-between of trying to find the magic with Jalen Milroe. His strengths, I think he makes everything hard look easy. A deep ball. He has one of the best deep balls in the class. He is the most athletic quarterback in this class. It's not even particularly close. And his deep ball, it reminds me of Jalen Hurts, where he is a run-first quarterback with the ability to throw the ball deep and huck it. And Hurts has never been, to this day, a great short or intermediate passer. That's not his game. But in a Hurts offense, I think this guy could be very successful if he can just get a little bit better with his accuracy and his throwing mechanics, which is why I almost wanted to put him at number 3 or number 4, because his upside is incredible. And honestly, I might regret this if he hits everything, okay? He is fast and dangerous as a designed rusher. He is legitimately fast. Like, I mean, he is probably faster than Lamar. He's in the conversation, at least. I'm talking about Lamar right now, not when he came out of the draft. I think that Jalen Milroe will be an elite runner of the ball at quarterback in the NFL. He is elusive and slippery as a runner, and he does enough to avoid a free rusher when he is tasked with it. He gave Georgia extreme issues with his legs to the point where one of the most athletically gifted defenses in college had absolutely no answers for containing his rushing capabilities. That is scary. He has pretty good accuracy on underneath quick throws, the easy stuff, especially when it's his first read, and especially when it's against zone. His throws were pretty decent, in my opinion, outside the numbers. He's pretty good at stepping around pressure and creating something. He has a very good handle for big moments and situational football. A number of times throughout his career, he's made clutch throws and clutch plays and been able to keep his team in games. He doesn't extend plays too much, in my opinion. He seems to throw from the pocket or run. He's kind of Jalen Hurts-esque, in my opinion, in that regard. He more so escapes to avoid trouble than he escapes to make a throw, if that makes sense. Kind of like Jalen Hurts. He doesn't tend to hold on to the ball, which is something that I liked. He plays with decent rhythm, and he's at least attempting to play with rhythm in the offense. I think he sees the field better than a lot of people, especially I thought the early tapes of this past season were exquisite in terms of finding the guy open underneath and getting the ball out. He is an excellent runner. Excellent, okay? Zip on swing and screens are evident. His quick game is definitely there. And if you're willing to buy into the person and the plan, and you're willing to maximize his development, this guy could be a top 10 quarterback, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. But he has equal bust potential because a lot of his negatives are pretty bad for the NFL level. He throws too much with touch and very rarely looks like he wants to drive the ball because he's scared of losing control of it, kind of like Justin Fields was. He doesn't seem to have much confidence to sit in the pocket and deliver the ball. Every ball is a floater. Something is awkward about his delivery. More of an overhead passer, kind of like Shadeur. Doesn't whip the ball around his body like Aaron Rodgers. He throws some hospital balls at times, or definitely could at the NFL level, because of the floater mentality and leading the ball into certain defenders because he's not the most accurate or consistent with his mechanics. He's not great at throwing off platform or off balance. It causes inaccuracies. My concern with him is somewhat reading the field, but he can stare down the first read a little bit too often. He's not looking to throw the ball at the intermediate level as much as the other quarterbacks I've discussed, especially the good ones. He's not great at picking up blitzes and recognizing blitzes. He got fooled by South Carolina a couple times. Now, I kind of feel like some of that's on the scheme, some of that's on the school, some of that's on the coaching, some of that's on the quarterback, right? You need to have a blitz plan, a blitz package to be able to attack these guys. Placement, especially on the move, is spotty. Accuracy is a worry for sure, especially when having to reset. He struggled with consistency against Tennessee. He needs to work on timing and anticipation of his throws. He had a ton of volume, and that exposed him a little later in the year. I think a big problem with Milroe is the fact that he didn't get to play on these great Alabama teams like Bryce Young, for example. Instead, he played on a much lesser team with lesser coaching and lesser talent. And I think that really hurt him in terms of a lot of his exposed flaws, like his ability to move off of his first read, go to his second and his third read, and still throw an accurate ball where he loses control of the ball quite often. His pre-snap identification of pressure and blitz is weak overall, in my opinion. So I look at Jalen Milroe and I say, this guy has insane, incredible, out-of-this-world potential. But are you willing to refine it and craft it? I would be willing to. I'd be more willing to pick Jalen Milroe in the back of the second than Shadeur Sanders second overall. For sure. I would be targeting Jalen Milroe if I was a respectable NFL head coach. He has super upside, and you want to take chances on these type of players. He's also a very good kid that I think is willing to work for it, like Jalen Hurts. At number 7, and now we're going to keep things a little bit more brief as we go from 7 to 10. Guys, if you've enjoyed the list, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button and subscribe for more NFL draft rankings. At number 7, I have Kurtis Rourke out of Indiana, the Canadian kid, 6'5", 231, very good size from Ontario. He has a pro-ready frame. I didn't love his arm. It was just okay. He seems to, in my opinion, showcase pretty good eyes recognition for route concepts and the ability to work through his reads, which is the biggest thing that really stood out to me, especially on scripted drives when he knew what play calls were coming and how to operate it against this defense. He showcased a high capability of operating an offense at a high level, which is something that I really liked. He showcased good anticipation and timing. I like how he's able to play on time. He's able to find his check down when need be. And I thought he was good as a touch passer, especially at the intermediate level, middle of the field passing, showcasing good enough power to get it done. Not a great arm, just okay, but very good touch, especially at the intermediate level. I like how he reads and sees the field. I will say he was lacking dynamic twitch to extend plays and breaking outside the pocket, where almost none of his tape was him moving because he had a torn ACL, and he played the entire season with a torn ACL. He is not previously seen as an athletic quarterback, but it certainly would help if he had an ACL. I will say that. So he may take some time to come back and be proper as a backup or a potential down-the-road starter. But yeah, like I said, I think he's got the smarts above the guys behind him. He's not the best arm strength-wise, but I just think he plays the game really effectively. He stays on schedule, he takes what's there, and he always tries to maximize the offense. Now, he is an advanced prospect at 24 years old, but like I said, that doesn't really matter to me. 6 years in college, 5 at Ohio, 4 playing overall, okay? He had good protection. He rushed his awareness for the rush could be a little bit better. His awareness for the blitz could be a little bit better. He got beat with delayed blitzes and disguises versus Ohio State at times. And I kind of asked the question, does he know how to set protections? It seemed like he didn't. And the offensive line and the coordinator gave him no answers against the blitz against Ohio State. He had no answers. They were playing man coverage, and these receivers could not separate in time. Very little escapability and creativity because of the hurt knee, but I think he's not a plus athlete regardless. And he becomes a little jumpy after getting sacked a couple times. I noticed his accuracy fell quite a bit when he was being jittered and jabbed, let's say. PFF describes him as an NFL passing profile featuring 5 years of starting experience. Ideal size and a nice touch, but lacks arm strength to be a true gunslinger in the NFL. Projects as a backup with potential to grow into a spot starter. That's what PFF said. Pretty similar to my take overall. I was most impressed by his accuracy, his size, and his overall ability to get the ball where it needs to go on schedule, on time. Now let's get to number 8. At number 8, Kyle Mccord out of Syracuse, 6'3", 210, former Ohio State quarterback who was forced to transfer due to some rough times at Ohio State. Funny enough, he's better than the Ohio State quarterback that won the national championship, in my opinion. Now, Mccord is limited. Some people will have him higher because he put up great stats and he is a gunslinger. But he is a pocket quarterback in the NFL that has very little mobility, and he doesn't have crazy great traits. He does have a strong arm, but I'm not sure what Kyle Mccord truly is at the NFL level, besides maybe like an Aiden O'Connell-esque player, which is what I could see, okay? Like a low-end starter that has a really good arm that can throw the ball everywhere it needs to go, can make every throw from the pocket, but is not going to extend plays, not going to create plays, not going to be super gifted at decision-making either, which we'll get to. Now, Mccord features a quick trigger with very good ball placement on quick throws. He can rip the ball, and I felt like overall his accuracy and composure and confidence was better when he played at home in the Dome. He can operate a vertical passing offense using play action effectively because of his arm. Think Jameis Winston. His release is very outside of his body, and it could be a little bit faster in my opinion. He throws a very good back shoulder ball, and I felt like he showed kind of the most prowess in that ability throughout the draft class. He doesn't really move off of his spot at all. He's not very fast. He is limited throwing on the run because he's not twitchy, quick, and really agile or malleable. He has a lot of trust throwing wide receivers one-on-one, like a Ryan Fitzpatrick-esque level where he just throws the ball one-on-one constantly throughout every game, 40 times a game. He's a very good tight window thrower, though, and that leads to a lot of variance. One game he'll throw 5 picks and 2 pick sixes. I think that was against Pitt. Then another game he'll have 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he is an aggressive opportunity giver. He will force throws, but he'll give opportunities to his receivers. So with very good receivers that can separate, this guy will be effective. He has natural anticipation when throwing the ball and does a good job of leading his receivers correctly when, he always seems to get rid of the ball at the right time on the route to enable his receiver to catch it. He makes the most power wow level throws other than Cam Ward in the class. And a lot of that is because of the volume, where he saw a ton of dropbacks and a ton of volume. And he also showcased a mental capacity, being able to bounce back from the disaster in Ohio State and be able to move on and get better. So I like Mccord for those reasons. I feel like he'll probably be a high-end backup because he is an absolute gunslinger and might be able to come into certain games and win and steal games because he is going to go out there and he has got a strong arm and he's going to be willing to sling it at his talented receivers. At number 9, we've got Quinn Ewers of Texas, 6'2", 210. I watched Ewers for 2 years because I'm more of a Longhorns fan than really any team. And I actually watched Quinn Ewers live in 2022 against Alabama, where he was starting one of his first games. He has a lot of experience at a very high level of college football. And I feel like he runs a pro-style offense at the college level fairly effectively. He holds the ball a little bit too long, in my opinion, and I feel like he needs to be quicker going through his progressions from 1 to 2 to 3, and he tends to hang on to 1 too much. And this is like he reminds me of Brock Purdy, and what I mean by that is not in terms of the ability or the skill or the mobility, but he's very, very reliant, kind of like a Kyle Shanahan quarterback, where he's very reliant on the scheme giving him an open option so that he can make the throw. If it's on a silver platter, Quinn Ewers will make you pay consistently with big-time throws because he has a strong arm. But when it's not available to him, he struggles after that, okay? Which is my problem. He's a good intermediate passer, not great. He's a good quick game passer, not great. He has a good but not a great arm. Some people overrate his arm talent. Good accuracy overall. Deep ball, I feel like faded constantly throughout the tape, where he had some good deep ball passes, but at the same time, he didn't fully take advantage of what was at his capacity with guys like Worthy last year and Golden this year. I felt like he still was underwhelming throwing the ball deep. I was never really impressed against premier opponents when he played them. I never felt like he went above and beyond to carry Texas in any game ever in the college playoffs, and that is depressing when you're coming into the NFL and you want to be a starter, okay? I think he's a backup in like a Shanahan-esque offense because he can run the offense well, and on a silver platter, he'll deliver, but he's not an above and beyond game-changing talent. Poor under pressure at times. I like his flick release, especially stepping up and around pressure. He's pretty good throwing on the run. I will give him that. He threw a ton of swing passes. He showcased good anticipation on routes. I think this is actually one of his strengths. He does a very good job of reading the field, knowing where to go with the ball, and then leading that receiver into making the play. He also showcased very inconsistent lower body mechanics, which impacted his ball placement throughout his seasons in Texas. So Quinn Ewers is my number 9. At number 10, Will Howard will finish this video off. At 6'4", 235, he has prototype size and stature in the pocket, and he's a winner. So NFL fans and NFL teams will draft him and like him, but I was not a huge fan of him He's a very long, awkward athlete where in confined space, his length is too long and it makes it difficult for him to be a guy that with a collapsing pocket is going to be able to manipulate and move. Where a guy like that's smaller and the opposite, Dillon Gabriel, showcase quick cuts and quick feet and vision to see where to go. I feel like this guy is too awkward with too long of arms, it's just weird. Pretty good understanding of where to go with the ball, when to go with the ball, pretty smart, mostly makes the right reads. And on the first read, he can make a good throw to an open man. He plays with a sound sense of timing and inner clock, but he's not a great athlete. Although he runs a lot of designed runs, he's only decent in terms of straight line speed and agility. He has solid arm strength. It doesn't wow me. Some throws lose energy, especially down the field and towards the sidelines. He is trusted in short yardage a ton for the best team in the country. That is important to me, okay? That shows a level of trust. Also, he can't escape pressure very well at all. I felt like he's not quick, he's not twitchy, he's not very creative under pressure. My biggest reason he's at 10, he was the most wildly inaccurate quarterback out of all these guys. He missed so many open throws. This team had open receivers everywhere, open throws everywhere, just misplacement with the ball far too inconsistently to be taken seriously as a NFL starter, which is why I view him as a backup because he's got some traits. 6'4", 235, can run in short yardage, won a lot of games. He's probably a pretty good kid, all that sort of stuff. He got away with placement due to wide receiver talent or open guys. He's a functional play action passer. He seemed to grow at the end of the season, and he seemed to understand situational football a lot better as the year went on. And that's where I would give him a little bit of leniency, where Howard seemed to get better and better and better and better as the year went on in the bigger games too. So that's where I'm like, okay, maybe there's something there as a project because of the size and the frame and the length and all that stuff. But I just saw way too many inaccuracies and just not enough wow from this player. So that's why he was at number 10. Those are my top 10 quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Deuces, guys. 75 likes for running back rankings, and we'll follow that up potentially with some wide receivers. See you later.